Welcome to BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Ren, and this is our Countdown to Two-A-Days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team in our August 14th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we're talking about the Clyde Bulldogs.
Yeah, and the Bulldogs are another one of our teams with a new coach this year. Coach Danny Dudgeon has come over from the Cooper Cougars, where he was the offensive coordinator the past several years. And he's going to a really enthusiastic guy, a guy who I expect to bring a lot of energy to that program, a guy who's going to bring a very physical power type spread offense. And then they're going to run a 3-4 defense. They've got a handful of guys back, 9 lettermen. Among those are 5 offensive and 7 defensive starters. But going to be a little bit of a new look group where they've obviously lost quarterback Dylan Newman, who had been their starter for several years now, done a really good job for him. So you're going to see some new kids in some big spots and a few new things and new wrinkles schematically compared to what they've been running in the past. But it should be fun to watch what Coach Danny Dudgeon and the Bulldogs can do this year.
All right. Well, they do have some kids back from last year that have some talent. So he does have some kids to build around. Austin Hastings, a promising junior running back, has returned. Zane Hall, a nose guard, 6'3", 250, can anchor that defensive front, but they will have to find quarterbacking. That's going to be the challenge. Blake Carr is one of the top candidates.
Yeah, and that's the good news. They've got a kid in Carr who as a sophomore is already 6'2", 185 pounds. A really good-looking athlete that they're excited about. But yeah, I mean, that's one of several spots that Coach Dudgeon's going to have to kind of, figure out during the fall camp, and then kind of as the season goes along. I expect this team to really grow throughout the year, just based on the fact that they're going to have so many kind of new kids in bigger roles. Because even some of these kids who were starters for him last year weren't necessarily, kind of the playmakers they relied on. They've lost a couple of really good ones. And like I said, Dylan Newman, and then at receiver, Jacob Roberts, who was one of the area's leading receivers last year. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting year, one of transition for Clyde. But in talking with Coach Dudgeon, I mean, he seems excited about the group he's got. And I think that there's going to be a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and we'll see how far that takes them. The one good thing about Clyde is that I think they've gotten to a point as a program, even though it's been over several coaches now, where they've got a bunch of kind of that blue-collar kid that comes out ready to compete, and I expect to see that again this year.
Let's hope that they give Coach Dudgeon an opportunity to thoroughly get his program in place. And by that, I mean get the junior high kids through the system and then up into the sub-varsity ranks and up into varsity. That's how you build continuity. That's how you build a program, by allowing a coach to stay.
Yeah.
Are you listening, Clyde? Are you listening, Clyde? That works when you do that.
And the thing with Coach Dudgeon in particular is this is a guy who really, really values culture and who really, really values the program. That's something that they've relied a lot on at Cooper, and it's taken them really far. I mean, that Cooper program is built a culture, again, across multiple coaches that has stood the test of time. And I expect Coach Dudgeon to do the same thing at Clyde if given time. But I know that he's there to build that culture. It's going to be fun to watch and see how that goes.
All right, let's take a quick look at the Clyde schedule for 2021. This is a challenging lineup. On the non-district portion, you've got Cisco, you've got Idalou, a regional team that I think Clyde's going to handle, and then they've got another couple of toughies in Ballinger and Sweetwater. Ballinger might be a little bit in rebuilding mode this year. That remains to be seen. And then they jump into district play. That's an stout district.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's no question that that non-district schedule is going to challenge them in a lot of different ways. You're looking at 4 really good teams on there. And in Ballinger's case, I agree they've lost some talent, so it'll be interesting to see just how tough they are. But that's been a program that's had a lot of success. So I think the one good news is, once you play that non-district schedule, you'll be well prepared for district. And then they open district with a couple of winnable games at Breckenridge and then at San Angelo TLCA. If you win both of those, you all but clinch that 4th spot going into the last 3 games, at home against Early, at Wall, and then at home against Jim Ned. So their district schedule's, I think, pretty front loaded. It gives them opportunities to really kind of to really kind of punch their playoff ticket early. And you're going to want to do that with Wall and Jim Ned at the end. Those are going to be 2 very tough games.
Yeah, you definitely want to have things secured going into those final 2 games. You don't want to have a must-win situation with Wall and Jim Ned in the final two ball games. That's the last thing that anybody wants. Game of the year for Clyde. I've got mine picked. What's yours?
I think I would go with that October 22nd game at home against Early. I think Breckenridge is kind of the wild card in this district, just because we'll see how much they improve in Coach Pierce's second year. But I still expect Clyde to be a favorite in that game. And then I think they'll handle TLCA. So if they start District 2-0, I think that early game, the third week of district, becomes a really important one, because then you're playing for the third seed going into those final two games against a Wall team that, while that program has obviously been very, very good, is that Wall team's going to have a lot of new starters. So I think if they could start 3-0, I think it would make that Clyde Wall game a pretty interesting one down the stretch.
I'm going to go with the Breckenridge game in the district opener in week 7 on October the 8th as the game of the year for Clyde. I think that that Breckenridge Ball Club is going to be better than some people think. I think that could be I really think that Breck is going to have a step forward this year, especially they get to the point where they're putting points on the board. That Breckenridge Ball Club in that game is going to be important for Clyde. It's going to be on the road at Buckaroo Stadium. If they win that game, I expect them to take care of business against TLCA. So they get off to if they win that ball game, you're looking at a 2-0 start, and all the pressure is off at that point down the stretch. If they lose the Breckenridge game, then the early game becomes a must-win.
Yeah, and I think that Breckenridge game is really interesting too, because that's going to be a very important game for Breckenridge. So both teams are going to come in there really wanting to win that district opener. And one thing that I think is interesting is both of those teams play absolutely brutal non-district schedules. So I think a big key to that matchup will be just how healthy those two teams are going into that game, because both are going to play, be tested week after week during their non-district schedule. So it's going to be kind of could become a war of attrition.
Yeah, and the thing is too, some of those teams on the Clyde schedule, it's not like they're playing finesse teams. There's 3 teams in there now. Sweetwater's going to spread the field and throw the ball around quite a bit with more of a finesse style, but they're going to start right off with a couple of just real very physical programs in Cisco and Idalou, and Ballinger prefers a physical style also. So you gotta get out of there relatively healthy to give yourself a shot in district play. But that non-district portion of that schedule is going to test them physically, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Sweetwater. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what Russell Lucas brings there, because they've had more of a physical running game than maybe what Sweetwater's been running in the past too. So, it's going to be a really tough non-district schedule leading into what should be a pretty good district again this year. So I'm excited to see what Clyde can do. I think that Coach Danny Dudgeon has a good opportunity here to get his team to the playoffs in his first year, and and then at that point you just build from there. So it should be fun to see what the Bulldogs can do.
All right, that's just about going to wrap things up for tonight's episode of the Countdown to Two-A-Day series, the Clyde Bulldogs. But we want to remind you that we're going to be answering all the key questions about Clyde and every other team in the Big Country in our Saturday, August 14th preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. It will be more thorough and more accurate than any preseason preview for Big Country football from any media source. Nobody's going to beat us.
In the meantime, thank you for checking out this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Day series. And make sure you tune in again tomorrow when we will be featuring the early Longhorns here at BigCountryPreps.com.